Okay, good morning, everyone. We got a few people here in class today. Um, we're a little bit slower because we have to check everyone in and make sure everyone lines up right. So with that said, we're going to start off. Ready? Hands up, feet shoulder width. Relax the shoulders. Relax the back. Turn. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, 2, 3. To your left, 2, 3. Center, inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, 2, 3. To your left, 2, 3. Center, inhale. Exhale. One more time. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Center, inhale, exhale. Hands on your waist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse, other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center cross, knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 and 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center. Hands up, pull in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, turn. Stretch it out. Switch. 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 Center. Okay, shake it out. Hands here. Deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, shoulder roll, hands here. Circular movements, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale through the nose. And stop. Hands up. Pull an inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, wrists. Reverse. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Okay, let's shift from side to side. Find your center. balance. Go back to the other side, switch. Okay, shake it out. Okay, leg swing, right side. Center, switch. Okay, center, side to side. And center. Okay. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing, inhale. Okay, still krilling. Okay, center. Okay, center, open, close. Switch. Okay, center. Next, circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbow down. palms down. Extend. Hands up. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Part the horse's mane. Switch. Okay. Cloud hands. Okay. Carry tiger to the mountain. center, infinity sign. Form the fists. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Okay, thumbs up. Alternate the shoulders. Switch. And center. Draw the bow. Okay, fan through the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, deep breathing. Okay, good. So let's go through the linear form, facing this way. Ready? Feet parallel. Preparation. First posture, beginning style left. Hands up. Forward. Sit back. Toe out. Step through. Flip the hands, beginning styles. Grasp the sparrow's tail. Now when we sit back, we go forward. When we roll back, try to sit into this stance if you can. Try not to lean forward. Just stay vertical. Turn. So you turn the spine and you come forward. Hook your wrists and the foot turns out. Shift your weight. Open the stance. Open the hip. Single whip. Hold the ball. Shift. Adjust. Diagonal flying. Shift. Move it in. Move it out. Center. Swap the hands. Press forward. Shoulder width. Raise the hand. Then from the waist, stork flaps wings. And relax. Okay, relax the shoulders. If your shoulders are up like this, there's tension. Let it go. Let the shoulders go. You could feel your shoulders should release. That means all of this has to release. Your torso, so shoulders should be forward a little. See, if you're like this, then you're tense here. If you're like this, you're also tense in here. So if you bring your shoulders forward, then you can sink your elbow. If you leave your shoulders back, you sink your elbows, but you didn't sink your shoulders. So that's your skeleton. If you don't adjust your skeleton, then the positions are going to be compromised and you can't relax into those positions. So even though some disciplines have you pull your shoulders back, or even in the military you have your shoulders back, you're in an erect position, but you're stiff. You're rigid. So the thing is, that's the position they want though. Depending on what your objective is, you want to be stiff and rigid. Of course, that's your best attention position. You learn that in the military, or you learn it in grade school when they tell you to stand up and lift, then you feel stiff. Let's all get in that position. How stiff do you feel? Pretty stiff? Good. Try moving. Impossible, right? You can't move when you're stiff. That's just part of it. So anyways, so stork flaps wings, you sink. Release the knees, release the hips, and just get that feeling. Okay, let's adjust now to here. Let's go to brush knee. Sit back. turn out, flip, press down, and forward. Now we go to the other side. We go to the right, to the left, sorry. Now we toe out, face the corner, straighten the foot and the hip. So you straighten the hips, leave your torso like this, and then you approach the front. Relax the elbow so you're not like that. Forward on the right side. Twist step. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shift. Shoulder width. Close the door. Relax the elbows and knees. You see, relaxing the elbows, the hands should come back a little bit and your knees will drop. Okay, form the fist and punch. Divert, block, punch. Cross the arms, leopard and tiger springs to mountain. Okay, shake that out. So because we see everything in 2 dimensions, when I say sink the elbow and relax the shoulder and your arm should come back, you don't see the forward dimension of the drawback. But if you look from a side view, you see the hands come back, right? So the hand coming back, if you're not doing that, the reason for that is because when you push forward and you bend your knees, your arm is still tense. There's something there that's keeping your arm from tying into it, the downward motion. It's the innate tension that your body doesn't know, doesn't recognize it. This is the difficulty about learning Tai Chi and understanding how the integration of body is, that if the relationship is not established. So the relationship is not established, then the movements will only be a physical idea. So we move, intrinsic movement is the integration of that. So if there's a response to your movement, then it's like that. If you punch out, then this hand folds, then the hand should come back. If I draw back like this, then this hand is actually going forward and back. The reason there isn't that action is because the elbow is tight. It's held in a position, but there's no movement there. So if we're talking about stimulating movement through movement, then if there's no movement, there must be no circulation going there. Not the type of circulation that you want. There's obviously going to be some circulation going on, but it's not a circulation based on the physical response. That the body has a give and take. The give and take is the expansion and contraction. So if you work that into your movement, it's throughout the whole body. So that's what we're trying to do. So movement is created, so there's both active and passive movement. So passive and active movement complement each other so that if there's movement in one part that's being created, then there's a response on the other side of it. So your body responds, whether it's the leg, the torso, everything is somewhat responding. Now we don't even see what's going on the inside that's responding to what's going on to the outside. Because, for every action there's going to be another reaction, whether it's equal and opposite or, complementing the motion. Right? So these ideas, as simple as it is pretty complex, but it's basically yin and yang. It's basically a balance in motion. But because the human body is really not very astute, it doesn't really understand what it's supposed to do. And getting it to do what you want it to do is a mindfulness. Right? Everyone can hold a position. We can just hold the position and just pause. So in between there, how you got there becomes a transition that can be done in many ways. If I go like this, the hands are up and down. If I go like this, I get to the same position. So that's why when you look at a book and a posture, You really don't know how it got there. All you know is that that's what it should look like. So that's your final position. You should look for a final position, but then learn to get to that position over time by integrating the body. So when we're here and we form the fists, right? So now this is forming the fists. If we form the fist and you have dimensional change in the direction of movement, if I turn like this, then my elbow did something. When I turn like this, my shoulder responded to the fact that my elbow did that. If my torso is building a relationship, then when I move, then the hand and the body is really integrating right to left, up and down, turning. It's like your body is doing this. So that when your body does this, it's like this area had the same effect. That's what they have this idea of what they call the dantian. The dantian is the 3 inches below the navel. That's your center of mass. And then you have your center here. Then you have your center here. So those are, they call the 3 dantian. When you move, your body should be tied into that as if the inside is doing the same thing. That's what internal rotation is. That's what rotating the dantian. When you do this and that, that's actually an intrinsic motion that happens based on how this is working, and this is working, and this is working. Those 3 things have to combine as a rotation of that, and your body's movement will pick up on that and adapt. So what does that do? Well, breathing is part of your torso. If your torso is moving, it's affecting how your breath and movement is going to be. So if breath and movement are driven by your torso, your change in posture here and internally is changing how your breath and movement is tied into the movement. So breathing is not a physical thing that's isolated. Breathing can be happening without movement. It's other than this. So it's a voluntary thing. But if you're building movement and your breath and movement is tied together, your breathing is really from inside controlling the outside. Everybody thinks that breathing is from the outside controlling the inside, but it's not really what's happening. What's happening is your manipulation of skeletal structure changes the idea of how you breathe. So while we're focusing on should I inhale and exhale, and you should, but the thing is, that's the most fundamental, basic way of breathing. When you're tying breathing with movement, it becomes a whole different aspect of how you breathe. So respiration should be natural. Respiration should happen by itself. It's an involuntary action, actually. It happens, but when you can make it into a voluntary action, in a sense, you're really maneuvering what is involved in the breath, not really what makes the breath. So that's how breathing and movement. So when Tai Chi is considered a Qigong, or anything that we do is considered breath and movement, that's what it is, to creating that circulation. And that type of thing, it affects your internal as well as your external physical motion. See? So movement is key to life. As I say, it's essential to life, but how you move is really the most important thing. So when we're here, we just did say, let's do strum the loop. We go this way. Okay. So we have an intent. When I'm in a neutral position, when I turn like this, then intent is a consciousness of what you intend to do. So if you're just holding your hand and you just go like this, then your intent is to be somewhat stiff and rigid as a motion. But realistically, your intent should have your wrists gently press on this side, because your intent becomes this. Now when you do this, when the wrist, see my wrist? When I do this, then the intent goes to there. That's what they call a yi, right? So your intent becomes this. So what is that to draw an analogy of what that is like, try kneading dough, pizza dough or bread dough, and you're kneading it, right? If you don't use your palm as an intent or your fingertips as an intent, you don't get the effect of what you're trying to manipulate as forming that dough, because it takes an intent of pressure and a change of force. Then a change of force is tangible because you're doing something physical that you can relate to from the fact that you're doing it, and you get results. You're turning, say, some flour and water into a mass. When you do this, you really don't know what you're doing. So you have to mindfully intend the motion to do this. And then when you come back, your elbow has to sink, and then the forearm starts to drop, and then you turn your hand. Now the intent goes to here. And then when you go forward, the intent goes to here, through the here to the fingertips. And then when you turn your palms out like this, your hands are spiraling in a direction like that. Then you're reversing the motion like that. This all driving your movements, because all our movements are directional, and they're somewhat forces in direction. So when you generate these movements, there's a whole learning curve going on there where you're becoming much more astute about what your movements are doing and how that feels. That's a change over time. But you first have to have a mindfulness that this is what's happening as a conscious intent. So that's what they mean, when they talk about using the mind without strength, using your will without strength. So when you're forming the fist, even though you're not physically punching, you're using the neurons and everything else that you created in firing that motion. And the body is constantly connecting. And then when you go to here, it's separating. And then you have the active passive movement. If you go like this and just go like this and like this, it almost looks the same, because you went through this, you got this, and you got this. So those are sort of final position, final position, final position. So when you learn, that's the basic sort of skeletal positioning, which is really the start point. But the transition between this, and this become something else, because now you've changed the intent of movement and the connection between what's that and that. So let's try this. Form the fist. Cross the arms. And then generate the hands. So when you generate the hands, they're coming on like that. And then you move to the next position. So next position would be finding your center or going to fist on the elbow. So here again, you're doing this, the same as in strum the lute, but now you're sinking the elbow, turning the hand, slicing around, creating the fist, and then finding your center and turning. And reset. And you begin to repulse the monkey. So you see, there's a lot of interim maneuvers that you have to get to finish the position. Those are transitions. So how long does it take for that to happen? Like I say, everyone's different. Everyone's wired differently. Everyone's perception is different. But you have to have something to work with to reach the goal and the objective, but at the same time work through and struggle with the minute maneuvers.
The end position with this on the elbow.
Yeah.
I always thought you had them straight, but actually
You're twisted. Yeah, because when you're here, you see, because my forearm is turning, so it has to be compatible with the turning of the movement. So when you do, say when you were doing the pushing hands and you were doing this, if you look at the hands as they maneuver through space, this hand is doing this. This hand is doing this. Right? And then you repulse. So between this and this create the spiraling effect. Because spiraling is like a pin rolling like this. Right? So it's spinning like this. So this pin is this. But we're in this position. So this is angular. It's spinning like this. Right? It's turning like this. But when I turn and I use a piece of that turn, then it has to turn with this. Now, because I'm changing my body positioning, which is your center of mass, tied between here and here, then your leg has to adjust too. You could stand here like this and just do this, and you see there's no movement. When I turn and I do this, now you see there's movement. If I turn this and I change my position, then you see that there's movement here. If there's movement here, then it has to be movement down to the soles of the feet. But that doesn't happen if the body's tense. If the body's tense, then there's no, other than being there, is not interacting with what's going on. So why we have so many problems with our joints in the body? Because we don't really use our joints. They're just there to hold the body together as a unit. But if you're using your joints to move, then you have to move them in a natural way, and the way it's designed to move naturally to blend. Because we should be working our body in a certain harmony, integration. Our joints should be working together as these units. So that's why it is pretty intriguing that this happens when it's brought out. But if it's not brought out, you really don't really realize that those little things are happening. So that's sort of depth of knowledge. It happens over time. It doesn't happen overnight. So a new person learning Tai Chi was first line is build some coordination, some understanding, and the goal is to learn that form, that sequence. But then once you learn that sequence, you have to refine those movements based on the principles and concepts of what we're talking about. So that's why just doing something like this, say fist on the elbow, you're like this, you're like this, you're like this, and then when you're out to this corner, you're resetting and you're coming back to center. And then when the elbows go out, you're back to center, and then you start to do this. So while we go from neutral to horizontal as two end points, vertical, vertical, horizontal, right? You have to get from this point to this point without being like that, because it has to tie through an action. So your movement should actually be like this. So if you look at my hand, there's a circle here. That's moving. So you create that motion based on this and this. So that's what vertical to horizontal is. So vertical to horizontal becomes this. But it becomes a movement that's integrated to the body. Right? And then you move, then you move. So this is how the body, there's no shortcut to this, because this is programmed into your DNA. It's not your DNA, but it's programmed into your motor skill in the brain. If it's not programmed into the brain, it could never happen, simply because your body's not wired for it. So if you think you know it, it's just something that's, you're fooling yourself that you know it. The body has to know it. So that's why it's such a process that people don't realize that it's more than just a bunch of movements like this, you know. So flailing like an infant, that's flailing. No rhyme or reason. It's just moving to create circulation because there's no intelligence in the body. So when a baby's born, they come into earth, they're on their back. Why aren't they standing up as soon as they come out? There's muscular stuff there, and there's bones and so forth, but they're not developed. So as the body develops, then it changes, and it changes. It's adaptability, and it's a learning. So we're learning throughout our life. So you're constantly learning. It's whether you're learning the right things or not. So that's sort of the part of that philosophy or the discipline. So if you make something like a movement as part of your training tool, then this is what you need to do to evolve. Otherwise, it's just basically empty meditation, which is a goal, in a sense, to be relaxed. So you turn. Then it opens up here. See? Because here, right? See my elbows here? So that creates the lower hoop. But because it's the lower hoop, and it's only one, it's on your center. Why aren't we doing this? That happens in Carry Tiger to the Mountain. But that's a double hoop. That's a circle. If I do this, then that's a single circle. It's really this. That's what hold the ball is. So when we turn, when we shift and step up, then when we place this foot down because we drop down, then we lead with the shoulder and then end up there. So your elbow, even though it's a slight lean this way, is over the knee. Then you're back to center. You bring it to here, and we lift up, and you turn slightly, and the spine is over the heel of the supporting foot, and you drop in. You step out, you lean forward, turn the hand, adjust, go forward, and split, separate the hands as a body maneuver. So we can maneuver our hands, but we also can maneuver the body. So when you maneuver the body, it creates the look of the hands without actually moving your hands. Because the movements are from the body, not just the hands. So that's one of the ideas that's always missed, is that we see the hands. And the reason for that is because throughout life, all you do is reach. Everything's going for it. But we don't necessarily learn to move our feet. How many times do we overreach because we don't want to take that step? See, so, you played sports, you played tennis. One of the things they teach you when you first learn to swing the racket is that it's not just swinging a racket, that it's your body. First thing they show you in footwork is that you have to move your leg. because footwork is the key. It's not how fast you can swing the racket. You first have to get to where you're supposed to go, then you swing the racket. So the same with Tai Chi. You first have to get your feet where they're supposed to go, and then you use the hands. Because if you don't get the feet to where they go and you move the hands, then the legs are not going to follow. You're going to be off balance, you see. So the key thing is leg work, footwork. So when Tai Chi is prescribed for people to improve balance and mobility and so forth, that's why I think it's such a great thing for people with Parkinson's, because it's really about footwork. So when they prescribe something for Parkinson's, why is it? Because Parkinson's people have problem with walking, with balance, and rigidity, right? All the things that we talk about that we should not have. Avoid the rigidity, balance, and mobility. So how do you develop mobility and agility? Leg work, right? So the leg work is the most important part. And what are our legs used for other than doing Tai Chi? It's for walking, to get from point A to point B, to bend down, to pick up, right? Not to bend down, pick up weights, to bend down to tie your shoes, right? To bend down to pick up something. Bend down to pull your pants up, right? So you have to be able to move and bend. So that's why mobility is so important. But the correct mobility is what we're striving for. Avoid the conflicts in movement. All right, so that's the Tai Chi paradigm in, building blocks to make it better. Then we can just go through for sequence, the long form. So each class we try to do a little bit, like last class we did something on the first part of the form. This class we did more of that section. Next time we'll do some repulse the monkey, fan to the back. And then there's a lot of repeat, but you have to get at least the basic concept of what each posture is striving to do. And then at least you have something to work with. I mean, that's basically what a teacher has to do, is communicate a certain idea or a certain process or requirements to reach a different stage of your development. And then it's up to you to do it, because I can only say do this and you have to try to achieve it. So anyways, so let's pick up the form from the cloud hands, all right? So single whip, we're here. We hold the ball and we're like this, right? Then we adjust, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And back to single whip. Okay, so just going back a bit, when we do cloud hand exercise, there's no difference basically in a hand movement, but where's the separation of hands and what's the timing? Well, if grasp the sparrow's tail ends here, we end up here, right, as a position, and we open to here. So this must be a point of intersection where the hands begin to separate, right? So in cloud hands, it would make sense to go to this corner, turn the hand to this position, as if you're going to single whip, which we actually do in some of the transitions, and then begin to open, right? So that would be a natural thing. Now we got to this side, and we went to this side, and we went to here. Wouldn't it be ideal to go from here to here, and then here? So what that does is it contains the space, because you could do it like this and then the hands are separate, and it almost looks the same, but you're not controlling your center and the balance point between your center. So if you go like this, you should pass through here, and then this hand's traveling longer. This hand becomes part of your rotation. So there you have active and passive movement. You follow me there? So what I'm saying is when we get to here, when this hand starts to drop, this hand becomes part of this. This hand's down here. Then it becomes the follower. And then when this hand comes to here, then this hand starts to drop. And then you start to use this hand working with this part of the body. So the hands are never really moving independently. They have to actually be tied to your motion. So when the hand goes here and it starts to go down and then you start to rotate, this follows. When it gets to this point and you drop, okay, then the hands go like this. Now the hands are not moving independently on their own. There's a little bit of hand in this body, and then because you have up and down movement, then you also have a dimension of vertical and horizontal tied together. So you have vertical, oblique, and then they transition here, and then now if you tied the legs together, you would sink like this. Now when this hand goes down and this hand goes up, then this leg is tied to the hand. So you have upper lower coordination. That's what is involved in the cloud hands. Yeah. In front of the face, about eyebrow level for the fingertips. Yeah, yeah. So your elbow should be a little bit lower. Yeah. So the hand, you see my angle? The cloud hand should not be like this. That's where you get this, and this is eye level, but the angle is too big here. So in order to get this to be eye level, then you end up flattening it like this, keeping this elbow out too far. So it appears to be eye level, but the distance here is too far away. So then you're reaching. This is actually not mechanically sound in the side direction because you don't have leverage. The movement should be here. So the elbow is pointing down, then you can be eye level. So getting to eye level can vary. This is eye level too. Am I going to do cloud hands like this? So eye level is a reference point. But if you don't understand the elbow position, then your eye level position is going to be off. So this is what understanding is. It's more than just, so the hand could be here, 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 depending on the intent of the movement. When the hand is here, then the hand is here, like this. This is okay, like this, away from the body. But the direction of force is this way. But if the direction of force is this way, then this should be more down. This should be an average position between the two. So when you go from here to here, you don't want your hands to be too out, because that doesn't have a natural strength to it, which is tied to the skeletal structure movement directionally. So, that the body mechanics and the strength and weaknesses of those positions is another level of understanding. But that's what I wanted to get across, that you should, when you practice this, to get it to this position before you get to, so everything is really contained within the realm of your space. That's what relative position is, using your body as a guideline, as a reference point. So even though everyone's unique, these movements are unique to you. You're not doing the movements relative to me because my arms and my lengths are a little bit different and the widths of, so everyone has to reference their own body. Then your movements become natural. If I reference my movement to Arthur, his eye level is here. His arms a little bit longer, so he would be a little bit, so his natural position is going to be a little bigger as a framework because of his physical anatomy. So that's just something that I brought up. Okay, so once we're here, we do the kicks. 1, 2, we just run through sequence now. 2, instep kick. turn, heel kick, brush knee. Oh, okay. Second brush knee. Planting punch, turn, parry and punch, and to beat the tiger. Okay, deep breathing. So just about time. So hopefully that information content was helpful. Um, you know, information is always shared, but it's always, live and it's spontaneous. So so when you come to class, when you hear this, then, it's an opportunity to take in just the audio side of this, and that's sort of verbal transmission. And people that are watching, some of this was probably a little too deep for someone that's new, but the thing is, it's information. And one of the things my teacher used to say, and this echoes in my head when I teach or when I bring up concepts, is that you have to use your brain, you have to use your mind. So my teacher always say, you have to go back and think about it. Think about it so you can try to understand. That's part of it. But you have to have something or a way of thinking. If you only just interpret what you think you hear, then that interpretation could be somewhat skewed depending on what information have you been fed. So everything I talk about is consistent with the approach and from my understanding over time. So, a lot of times teachers will talk about things, but it isn't explained enough so you get a deep enough understanding. So the Chinese have a term, it's just the words to talk about. Gong du, gong du. My teacher used to say, akaga gong du. That means it's only a word, but if you don't interpret it and explain it correctly, then that's all it is. Just a single term. So it's really, something that you have to take in as information, and then you go through the process. And eventually, if that information is housed here, which we house everything that we hear typically, then that will come out when your body's ready to interpret what the dialogue is, and then that interpretation actually becomes the real meaning. Because meanwhile, it's really just something that's words that's housed here. Yeah. Okay, we bow. Up. Okay, salute. Okay.